Hello, everybody. It's Ninja You here, and today we've got Mick.
Hello there.
Yeah, for those who don't know, there's recently been a tweet by DLU saying that they've basically got Avant Garden Survival and basically the entirety of Avant Gardens, and a large part of this is down to Mick grinding. And Mick's been a great friend, and I figured let's introduce you to him and have a little bit of a talk about this. So, yeah.
Awesome.
This is also literally just like Mick and I catching up because we've spoke for like 10 minutes prior to this and we haven't really spoken.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay, but okay. So I guess first thing, do you want to introduce yourself for those who don't know you? Like, how did you come to be working on DLU?
Yeah, for sure. So probably like many people, I played like a universe back when I was 11, I think. So I played when it came out, and then over like a period of a year, and then just like everybody else, I started playing Minecraft, which kind of messed everything up. And because of that, I actually missed it closing down. So I was incredibly sad about that at that time. And then over time, I decided to go into computer science and learn to program basically at university. And then I noticed DLU, I think back in 2015, because they were already like well underway, right?
Yeah.
Immediately when the game shut down. And at that point, I remember asking Neil about it. Like I sent him a DM, or no, I think Max, right? I tweeted Dorian at that point. And they were not looking for developers back then in 2015, so that's quite funny.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I remember like 2 years ago, or I think like 1.5 years ago, I started working on Uchu.
Yeah.
Basically because it came from a C# environment. So I thought it was really cool that it was actually a project in C# that I could just jump into. Where I also met Vincent, of course.
Yeah.
And then I worked on that for quite some time. And then at one point, I don't recall, I think I did like a major refactor of the entire item system, right? So it was a lot more responsive. And then at that point, I think after that major update, I got this message from Vincent. He asked me to join. Yeah, so that's basically how it went. And it's been great since. So I think it's been 2 months now. I joined back in March, if I recall correctly.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's been great. It's a lot of fun to work on. I think for like with DLU, like most of the base, the building blocks are in place. So it's a lot of fun for me to just go out and implement a lot of gameplay stuff, which has been the major thing I've been doing. It's been only been 2 months actually, and yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and I think we've had a lot of really cool content. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been 2 months, and we have seen quite a few messages from you in the change log. It's been good to see.
That's true. Yeah.
Good to see. I mean, okay, so I did like put down some things on a notepad document just as reminders of stuff I was interested in asking. But I mean, it's something that's kind of you touched upon there is, and I know we've discussed a tiny bit in the past about the fact that a lot of the base work has been done, and you quite enjoy adding gameplay features, whereas there are those who enjoy working on kind of the core aspects of the server and like underlying systems a lot more. And like, so just before that, like, this is such a general question, but like, how does the team work? Because like for so long we had this cliche in the community of whenever someone was like, why don't the projects work together? We're all like, whatever that not Moore's law. Moore's law is the one that's good. The one that adding more people to a project doesn't necessarily make it go faster, and at the moment it seems to have done quite a bit. So like, yeah, how do you say like everyone works together, and how does it all work as a team?
So it's quite a fun dynamic actually. So we mostly have let me see. Right. So me and Vincent are probably the most active developers on like DLU itself currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we mostly do the same stuff. So he, for example, there have been occasions where Vincent wanted me to share parts of his changelog. So not everything in the chat is actually my work.
Yeah.
But like Nexus Tower, for example, Forbidden Valley, racing, all that stuff. That's all Vincent's work.
Yeah.
And that's also a lot of gameplay stuff. So we're basically on the same page there. And then there's, I think mostly like Max and Avery are really the core programmers. But most of the core, like I said, has been done, so that's quite nice. And then of course we kind of have this research team consisting of like LCDR and Cypho, who managed to do really odd things with the client, but I find it quite. I admire that, right?
Yeah.
So like their knowledge of the core systems in LU, insane.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to see what those guys are up to. Yeah. And of course, like Neil manages, well, basically the community, and he's the one that translates everything into fun messages on the Twitter, and he manages, well, basically all the other stuff that's not like programming or development.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a fun dynamic, in my opinion.
That's good. It's nice that this can be fun. No, the thing I was just thinking when you said about LCDR and Zypho, it is for those who have never seen the stuff that, like, I'm thinking particularly of LCDR, but also also Zypho. The stuff that that they managed to do, like, it does seriously astound me. Like LCDR the other day wrote or managed to, I don't know to what extent writing managed to, I think he managed to hook up like a Flash library to like add more Flash stuff into the game. It's just like, what is always it's just really, really cool stuff just out of nowhere. Love it.
Yeah, and of course Aaron joined us as well, and he's really good with web development, so that's quite nice as well. Like we're getting a really nice website out there. Basically getting ready for everything.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to have like dedicated people on dedicated stuff, because I know, for example, that there are some developers who don't really enjoy working on the gameplay stuff. But you need the gameplay stuff, but you also need the core stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I
can't have one without the other
stuff. So it's nice to have this. Yeah, exactly, right. So it's really nice to have this kind of like split in work. And I think that for the other guys, it's also nice that me and Vincent are working on the gameplay stuff now, because it's very visual. Yeah, you can really see it, and it's very tangible.
And it's someone. Yeah, I could. Well, okay, so that's something that has been like hugely evident since you and Vincent joined. Like the changelog previously. Okay, there was stuff being posted in the changelog, but like since you and Vincent joined, it feels like it spurred everyone on, because like I've seen far more posts from Darwin as well, etc. It's just like lots of gameplay features being added. It feels like that's kind of been spurring stuff to be done back end as well, and it's kind of gone back and forth. It feels like, just looking at the changelog, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're currently kind of like focused on it's kind of like this, not really a cliche, but it's like, let's finish the game first. So there's a lot of things we learned about the core, and like for me, I've been here for 2 months, but there's a lot of things I've even learned about the core, and there's a lot of stuff we would like to kind of redo. But for now, the focus is like, just finish the game first, and then redo a lot of stuff, right? So yeah,
that's fair. I remember one question. That people kept asking. I've got a video on it somewhere, which is why all the rewrites. Because back in the day, like there were so many people complaining at DLU for rewriting the server. It was like, no, these rewrites actually are necessary. But it's cool to see.
For sure,
it's cool to see that that stuff's that you're reaching a stage where you think you might be able to get to the end like that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So this version of DLU, like DLU v3, is actually only 2 years old. So it's quite cool that, like, if I recall correctly, so Max made it like the core systems in a few days. You've probably heard that from him as well, like when you talk to him. So it's quite insane actually that it's been like the entirety of the source today has been built in a span of 2 years.
Yeah, that is really cool. I think that's something a lot of people miss, or a lot of people don't realize. But yeah, that is very. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people don't realize that. I very, very often forget that.
Yeah, but it's cool to work on, and I think we kind of realize, okay, we're not going to redo it again.
Yeah.
Currently, and especially because we have a lot of scripts implemented, and you can't really port those easily, right? So that's a lot of scripted work. But there's definitely some things we'd like to change, but those are really not a priority. And DLU performs great, in my opinion, right? So from a gameplay perspective, you won't really notice it.
Yeah.
There's just some things that could be a bit nicer.
Well, of course, you as someone whose day job is basically making stuff go very, very quickly and efficiently, I'm sure you're probably you probably see stuff.
My expertise is absolutely not C++. So when I joined, I had actually never written a single line of C++. I did a lot of C and C#.
Oh, no.
But it was completely new for me. So I'm not like the expert on nice C++ code or anything. Like I just do what DLU already does, and then I'm like, okay, this is probably the right way to go.
I do remember. I mean, obviously not equivalent, but when I started years ago, like working on JLUS, and it was just like I have never touched C++ in my life, but there's enough stuff there. I'm just going to copy the syntax that's already in use.
Yeah.
I know it's a slight difference, but yeah. It's just... Okay. Well, I mean, something from a personal perspective I'm really interested in is, okay, yes, there's the really big news about survival and Avant Gardens, etc. But like the question I was kind of genuinely really interested in talking to you about, like regardless of whether or not this was recorded for a video, was like, what's it? I don't know. I feel this might be a really hard question for you to answer in an understandable way. But like, what is like day-to-day kind of, or however, I mean, okay, that's a question. Like, how much time and how often do you actually, like, in your day-to-day life, because this isn't your day job, like, how much time do you actually have to spare working on this, I guess would be a first question.
Well, first of all, so I spend basically all my free time on this. But it's not because I have to. It's because I really, really, really want to. I seriously enjoy working on DLU, right?
Yeah.
Or were you referring to my job? Because the connection kind of dropped.
Oh, sorry. No. I was saying, yeah, that's really cool. That's how you want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that the thing I enjoy the most is like I get so excited when I write up a changelog. For me, that's so fun. And then when I share it in the channel, because of course, like for people in either the DLU Discord or on Twitter, you don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And on one end, like that was very different for Uchu, and that you could just see the commits, which is also nice. But I think the cool thing is that you can release entire features instead of seeing a feature evolve.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of fun. So whenever I share something, you get so many positive, so much positive response. That is the thing that really keeps you going. And I checked the Twitter as well, for example, when we shared the tweet, just the share, like the amount of people wanting to play and amount of people that really appreciate what we're doing here. Yeah, that's such a special feeling, and that's the thing that really keeps me going and makes me want to work on this whenever I can, basically.
Yeah. That's good, because I know it's been a thing. I guess in part this is a really nice thing about the DLU team, as you mentioned, being quite balanced between having people with different expertises, because I know lots of developers have kind of mentioned in the past feeling like it's annoying having to carry everything on your own shoulders, whereas now it seems like working on the game because in order to get those positive comments, you had to implement something new. But in order to implement something new, quite often you'd have to write like a core feature and lots of gameplay stuff and scripts on top of that. And people didn't people tend to like doing one or the other. So I guess that's a really nice thing about having it as a group.
Yeah. So quite often, I still have to add like core stuff because. Like if we haven't implemented the gameplay stuff, there's no need to implement the core stuff, right?
Yeah. That's true.
So generally, I do have to do a little bit of that, and I don't mind that at all, by the way. So the new activity system, I've mostly done with Vincent, right? So the racing, the instances, AGS as well.
Yeah.
There's all kind of work on the same. They use the same core system. So I enjoyed working on that as well. But I like gameplay stuff because you can show it to people, right? I can implement a property and show people, and people get excited. And I think that's the thing I like most about working on those gameplay features.
Yeah, the brilliant bit that I didn't see coming when the changelog started happening was just the fact that people just spam reacts and like just random relevant reactions. And it's brilliant. Like when the pets one was released and there were just so many pets reacts, etc. That was brilliant. I enjoyed all of those. It was very funny.
It's also why I always use emojis in my changelogs.
My favorite
I do that on purpose.
My favorite one I have to say is Vincent when he wrote the changelog saying they ported it to Linux, and the fact that beneath there were a load of people just reacting with the penguin emoji.
Yeah, for sure.
That was one I didn't see coming. But yeah, so when you have been working on this, so the kind of follow up to that question, and I guess a harder thing to maybe answer in like in a short amount is, what do you actually like, if you can like explain it to someone such as myself, like what do you spend your time working on? Like how was implementing the Avant Garden Survival, for instance, how does that actually happen? Sorry, such a broad question. Please explain the entirety of LU development in before I have to go for lunch.
Right. So how that goes about is that, of course, we have like the packet captures.
Yeah.
So generally, you kind of start with those. So, well, generally, like to set the stage, I search for some snippets in Jamester's videos, just to kind of get a feeling of what it's supposed to be. And for Avant Garden Survival, there were actually still a lot of leftover scripts that we could use, right? So that you can kind of re-implement.
I've seen some of those.
But I think like Survival, so Survival was the first thing I worked on when I actually got very annoyed by the client, as there were actually leftover client bugs that I had to fix.
Oh no!
So I had to fix like original. Yeah, right. So we had to do bug fixes for original, like a universe code left over by the original developer. So that was quite infuriating at the time, right?
Yeah.
But so what that generally looks like, you just go through the scripts. For most of the gameplay stuff, there's still scripts we can check out. Then look at what gameplay is supposed to look like, and generally look at some packet captures, and then just start writing code, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't know. So for the Avant Garden Survival, that I did look into. I have looked into the scripts a little bit. I looked into it a little while back, and it kind of, I don't know. I remember there being like the scripts kind of, as I started looking at them, they kind of began referencing one another, and it kind of just went down not like it cyclically, but it did kind of go down a rabbit hole to some extent of, okay, these are now referring to this game object. And so do you try and implement the same structure that is in the scripts?
To a certain extent, because the client is it expects everything in a very ordered fashion, right? So you have to have the basic structure the same. But especially for Survival, I had to like do a lot of stuff differently, because of course the original scripts were written in Lua script, and that just has some very different features from C++, right? So Lua isn't typed, so a lot of weird, tricky things the developers do in the Lua code is just not possible in C++. So you have to really approach those kind of things in a different way. And especially with the properties, those are a real rabbit hole. Like that's insane. The stuff they did there is like it takes really long before you get like what they even were trying to achieve there. But once you get the base right, it's all right. But especially for survival, it took me incredibly long to understand what actually was happening, and then also to understand that like the base system that they designed is used for different survival instances as well. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the same for properties. And the like in hindsight, the bad thing about properties is that Blockyard is actually the most cursed property of them all. So you start off with like the most difficult and weirdly intertwined property, especially when you start implementing the Spider Queen fight. And that's the one you start with because that's the first one you right?
Oh no.
That's the first one you come into contact with. Well, in hindsight, that's actually the most cursed, weird property of them all, right?
Yeah.
So if you would do, for example, Avant Grove first, Blockyard would be much easier to work out.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's interesting to think about. I mean, I guess it makes sense that it's a one-off, but yeah. I guess from the perspective of very much the layperson, you don't think that it actually that it might make sense to go about a different order.
But I think I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of went off track there. But yeah, that's generally what I do. You just look some videos up, you check what is it supposed to do, and then you look at some references in the original client, packet captures, and then and just start writing code.
Yeah. So how so that makes it. I don't know if I am thinking of it oversimplistically, but that sounds like a lot of the challenge at the moment is kind of writing the code as opposed to like research. Like I remember back in the day, a huge thing it used to really, really feel like, and a lot of the discussion was centered around kind of researching features rather than writing the code for them. Whereas it now sounds like you're saying it's actually kind of quite well understood to some extent.
Yeah, that's very much true. Yeah, I hardly ever dig into like unknown packet territory. Like seriously, huge kudos to everyone that's been here before me. Everything is so incredibly well documented, and the base for everything is already set. So I kind of have this sandbox with tools to use, and then for me it's actually quite easy these days to implement most stuff, right? Because the building blocks are already there. So that's definitely right.
Yeah, I must say that's kind of what it has felt like just to be watching DLU recently. It's kind of felt like, okay, there's so much time has been spent like building up knowledge, understanding of some really, really obscure systems, etc. And now it's finally coming together, and we're seeing like so much cool stuff. Sorry, I'm saying finally as though like as though like, oh, everyone should have gone faster. No, I don't mean it at all that way. It feels like so much work has gone into it, and now we are getting these really, really cool results out of it.
Yeah, that's very much true. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I was kind of vaguely interested in asking, but what's the like? So for me, I know like the particular feature of that message that I am by far the most excited about. Okay, there are two things I'm very excited about. One of them is the speedy cap and the fact that I don't need to continue buying a stupid numbers of Quixicles. But mostly,
I knew that. Yeah.
Mostly Avant Garden survival. It's like the thing that I found the coolest out of that. But do you have a particular favourite like feature you implemented, or because you've done a lot of stuff in Avant Gardens, right? Like it's not just survival and Avant Grove and the speedy cap. Like it's as the I don't know if the message on Twitter said it, but as the thing on the DLU announcements thing said, like Avant Garden's being completed more or less. So what's the favourite thing you've done?
So I think the favorite feature I implemented is kind of like more kind of like a background thing. But like I said, I implemented the activity system, or I kind of extended it. And the cool thing about it is that actually it was the final like major mission progression thing we were missing. So I noticed that when I implemented that, a lot of achievements were actually unlockable, right?
Oh, that's cool.
So that's why you can get the speedy cap now, because we track those achievements now.
Wait a second,
it's actually an achievement award.
Okay, wait a second. So what's this activity system then? Because my thought for the activity system was I remember like when people were discussing Avant and survival, people were like, oh no, we've got to get up like instancing, and I assumed the activity system was related to that, but no, the activity system's different then. Is it?
So the activity system is a real Frankenstein monster, honestly. So basically what they did is everything you can kind of do scripted in the game is an activity. So Avant Garden survival is an activity, racing is an activity, but quick building is also an activity, for example. Okay. So implementing that and properly doing that, that makes it so that a lot of those things can be completed automatically, and you can actually get achievements for completing all kinds of activities, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, but the thing is that the activity system is quite cursed in a way that it handles everything. So it handles, like you said, it handles instancing. It handles quick building. It's insane. Like we really slimmed it down, but it's kind of insane how much it handles.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
So I think that is my favorite feature. Like implementing that and suddenly noticing that I could complete Avant Gardens 100%. But I think the most fun thing was that I was working, like I was sharing all my progress in the development chat in the DLU Discord, and at one point I kind of finished AGS, right? So we were going to test it out. And at that point, I asked in the chat, like, aren't we like 100% now in AG? And you went, well, I think we're missing a few missions, right? So I thought, oh, right, okay, so let me fix those. And then there was this one mission that I couldn't complete. And I was looking at my mission screen, and I think, what is this mission? And Cypher went and looked it up, and he said, well, that's Event Growth. And at that point, I just went, oh, well, I guess I'm implementing that as well then.
Nice.
So it's kind of how that went.
Explains how we got Avant Grove and we did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I did it, because I thought, okay, I can't stop now. I'm already deep in the rabbit hole. I mean, so I must finish this.
So close. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's fun, because I must admit, like, a quote which I said. Like right at the start of doing this whole channel thing, so it's probably about 2 years ago now. It was, God, that's a long time. Surely, okay, that's okay. I've just been met with a thought about my own mortality, but we'll move on quickly from that. About the fact that LEGO Universe communities felt very much like waiting communities rather than gaming communities, and like the fact that lots of servers, like this is before AI etc. was implemented on any of the servers, and it kind of felt like, okay, once AI was implemented, I was like the last feature I was kind of thinking for something I was really looking forward to having a really, really replayable game was survival. Like you could spend lots of time grinding, and that would be loads of fun normally, but it felt like survival was going to be this point where you could get really competitive and people could basically indefinitely keep playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was hugely exciting from my end. And also I remember the property battles from live. I kind of remember the Spider Queen and that it happened, but I don't remember too much about it, but I remember the property battles quite strongly. I remember finding them quite difficult as a kid.
Yeah, they can get, like, there's some strategy to it, right? But they can become quite difficult if you don't really know how to approach it. But it's a lot of fun. I think the coolest thing about survival is now that survival was the first thing you'd encounter in DLU that wasn't implemented.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's now in, it really, like, I'm not even sure what's the first thing you encounter right now that doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm just going through my head trying to think about that. I mean, I guess it depends on your quest chain. There's one mission in Return to Venture Explorer. There's Monarch of the Sea, which is auto-completed. But, like, yeah, those are so far down the line compared to survival. That is actually quite amazing. Like, the jump in, like, pure completion that's just occurred. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
I think that was a lot of fun. Like the first time spinning it up, actually completing the mission, right? Instead of getting this message saying, this is not ready yet, or if I'd completed it. That was a lot of fun, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It must also be cool sitting there knowing you are like the first person, like since 2012 or whatever, 2012, yeah, since 2012, who's actually played survival.
Well, I think a lot of people have tried kind of working on it. I remember that there was like this very small piece of code by Avery, if I recall correctly. So I think that people have kind of like tried and not like given up because it's too difficult or anything. But it's just a lot.
Yeah, there's so much to it.
Right. And I think most people just don't really feel like doing that or something.
That's fair enough. Okay, I mean, you already mentioned one thing on this front, but about the fact that you actually had to fix bugs in the client. But are there any other like interesting, fun, difficult things you've come across? I mean, no land sharks, I'm assuming, but I can hope. I can hope for the land shark. But yeah, any fun stuff?
Well, I think that was like the most. Well, it wasn't really fun.
Sorry.
But I think that like that was the most severe thing. Yeah.
So what sort of bugs were there going on in the client?
Definitely the client bugs. Well, it just wouldn't start up, right? And at one point I was literally about to pull my hair out. I was running into AGS and it just wouldn't start. And I looked at my code, I think this is correct, right? This is doing the right stuff. And then I noticed like I use Wine on my Mac to run Lego Universe. And so you have the client logs in your terminal. And I noticed that the script crashed. And I thought, okay, wait a second. This is not my stuff. This is their stuff breaking. I think at that point it was quite hilarious. And then I just edited the script. So that's the cool thing. Like you can just edit the client scripts.
Yeah.
And because it's Lua, you don't need to recompile the client or anything. And then what did I do? I added 2 letters, right? So they just had a typo. And then the whole thing suddenly started working.
That's brilliant. How was that in the live game? Because survival worked in the live game. How does that mean they just had the same typo on the server or something? That seems like that shouldn't be it.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously? Wow. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, because I think it was very timing specific. So it's based on when a player loads in, it does some stuff. And I think the timing of the live server is just a bit different than DLU's timing there. So I think the client script made some kind of assumption that would work on the live server, and therefore that case would have never shown up. But because our server is kind of differently and it sends like some packets in a different time frame, I think that caused it to crash. But it's funny because it's literally a typo.
Yeah, right? that's brilliant. I have seen a couple lying around in CD clients as well, just in the database, just sitting there like, you really couldn't spell armor, could you? But
that's the same thing with when you did this race in Nexus Tower, and then for some reason that tracked towards this other foot race, right?
Yeah.
We had to change the client for that because it was so weird. Like I was looking at the database. Yeah, it was just an error on their behalf. Like we looked at it, like we all looked at it, and we thought, wait, but this is it's literally saying here that it's the same race, which it isn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very strange stuff. That's funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That's weird because I don't think about that's weird, and like I feel for you guys because I don't think about the client as being something that I expect to be making mistakes. Yeah.
I think the fun stuff is because we're so much working on gameplay, we're really noticing the oddities and quirks of the client. And we kind of have to work around those. Like with the base systems, you of course it's kind of like an issue. It can be an issue at times, but here you really notice the quirks and the weird ways in which worlds would load and the weird exact orders in which you would receive messages. And then sometimes stuff just breaks because we're not doing stuff in the exact order as the live server would, right?
Yeah. That's strange, funny, and kind of amazing that you guys can actually solve those problems. That's very cool. Okay, so like I think well, okay, no. So I have two kind of major questions left, but I mean, one of them is something that I think a lot of people will be interested in. Do you have any plans for what you're working on next? This is very random, but yeah, any thoughts for features you want to do? Gnarled Forest Survival. Please say Gnarled Forest Survival.
So my way of working, I can kind of share that. I just play the game, and whenever I notice something isn't implemented, I implement it. So that's kind of been my way of doing things.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we're currently at AGS. AG is 100% now, so probably just the next thing that isn't there.
Yeah, that is so cool. Because I'm just thinking, like, the last time a world was 100%ed for the first time. I mean, there's just Venture Explorer, and that was so long ago. It's so weird seeing another world 100% complete. That's.
But I think like with Gnarled Forest, it's also quite far ahead. I noticed like a while back, someone said in the Discord that we were actually like Gnarled Forest can almost be completed already.
Yeah, Gnarled Forest is really far along in terms of missions and achievements.
So probably like that. Maybe Nimbus Station. I don't know. Yeah. One of them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Just interested. Yeah, okay, so I mean, kind of already covered this to begin with, like with the fact that, I don't know, you feel that kind of the team works really well, but what's it, compared to Uchu, what has it, like, how have you found joining DLU? Like, going from how Uchu worked and everything to now working on a server, which is quite a large team.
It's been a lot of fun. I think the thing I liked most is that when I started working on Uchu, I wanted to do gameplay stuff, but I noticed that there were just some major flaws in the core system. So I was kind of forced to work on those on my own behalf, right? I felt forced to work on those because I didn't like the fact that I would smash an enemy and then it would take a few seconds for something to show up. While with DLU, I started and immediately noticed how incredibly fast and responsive DLU was. So I think that was the most fun thing, and that kind of gave me this sandbox to play around with, and that caused me to implement all those gameplay features because I didn't have to work on the core because the core was already there. I think that was the most fun thing I noticed when I joined.
Yeah, that's nice. I know I've worked on the occasional code base in the past, and it's just been like, this is annoying me. What I need to do does not require me to tweak this, but I really, really want to tweak this because it's strange. It's implemented weirdly, or not very scalably, or something like that.
Yeah, and also absolutely no kind of like disrespect to Uchu.
No.
It's amazing how far that project has come, honestly. And it's fun to see that it's kind of like constantly the torch is kind of passed on. I think that's the funniest thing about it, right? Yeah, it's nice that it's still out there, and I think it's important that it's still out there because it's a fun community to be in, right?
Yeah.
But it started, of course, with Yui, and then Vincent, and then me, and then Zeop, who's currently doing it, and I think he's doing a very good job as well. So it's just funny how kind of like the torch is passed on each time, and I think Uchu is a really cool project.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it just needs kind of like quite a strong rewrite, right? Because it's just there were some decisions made in the start that just need to be redone.
Yeah.
So
which is fair, fair enough. Before anyone thinks that this is a diss towards Uchu, consider the number of rewrites that DLU and basically every other project has been through. It's not dissing Uchu to mention that that rewrites could help it, because every server's been through them.
True. Yeah, Uchu is still in its version 1, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I remember when Uchu first started appearing. The main thing I remember about it was everyone was like, "Oh, this is so hard to set up," and I never took a look at it because of that. And then on one day I do take a look at it, and it's like, Actually, compared to so many other projects I set up, this is a beautifully written guide to set it up by Vincent.
Yeah.
Why are more people not playing this? It's pretty good.
I mean, the guide is there, but there's just I think it has been added in like the past months, but the issue was with Uchi that it would just fail silently, right? So you have no clue that you didn't set it up properly.
Yeah, it's true. And so, okay, on a similar line, is there anything you particularly miss about Uchu? Anything coming to mind for that? I've stumped him, people.
No, so the fun thing is that I was kind of like I started the community surrounding it. I think that was a lot of fun to kind of run and manage, and also like a lot of people really appreciated the work there as well. I think the thing that's nice about Uchi is that it's actually already all out there, right? So sharing features, people are completely aware of everything, and like for DLU, one thing I really can't wait for is to like share it with everyone, and just like the sheer excitement you see on Twitter. It just makes me want to be there on the first day, standing there in Venture Explorer, seeing everyone log on. And that kind of vibe was already there on Uchu because like we didn't limit anything, right? So you could visit any world. People would go to Ninjago. Nothing was implemented there, and the server would generally crash because the worlds are so large. But people were already doing that kind of stuff, and people became quite technically knowledgeable because they would kind of figure out the limitations of Uchu and then learn to work around them. And you kind of got this community feel where people that used to be not technical people certainly could help others setting Uchu up or helping them get through kind of like limited or non-implemented areas. And I think that was a really fun aspect of the community for sure.
Yeah. I must say, the community around Uchu, I've said this to Mick 100 times in private, but the community around Uchu really, it's fun. It's been so fun to watch that develop. Very fun. Yeah. Anyway, like, I don't really have a huge like conclusion thingy, outro, anything. not prepared because honestly, this was primarily just a talk I wanted to catch up. But yeah. But
Same,
so I mean, so I guess this is going to be the end of the video. I'm really tempted to just leave it there. Leave it there. Just leave it on. This will be the end of the video. I
goodbye. No, I mean, I'd say for people, I can kind of get like people are saying like when will it finally release? I think the nice thing is for people like keep up with the DLU Twitter. It proves we're not dead. We're still out there. We're still adding stuff.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure that the experience is very solid and that everything is done right, so that when we do release, it'll be fun for everyone. Basically that. I mean, that would be my conclusion, I guess.
It's great one to draw, and especially at the moment, like that now the factor holding you back is purely working out not-for-profit stuff and the website, etc. Like those are cool. Those are, as roadblocks go, like the fact that it's not really gameplay at the moment, or at least to my understanding anyway, there's nothing gameplay related holding you guys back at the moment. That's quite fun, I think.
True. Yeah, and we're like completely redoing the infrastructure. So that's why the test server the servers are currently offline. So we're going to like completely redo the infrastructure into an incredibly scalable infrastructure, which I find incredibly exciting. So I'm going to probably work on most of that. But that's also in preparation for like being ready to handle a lot of load, because our current setup, like it works very well for what we're doing right now. But let's say suddenly like 5,000 people log on, what happens then? And we're kind of looking into an infrastructure shift that allows that. So that's really fun to work on as well.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting. It's got to feel quite exciting as well, being like, because
for sure.
That's not a position a project's ever been in before, where they're like, okay, no, now by necessity we're getting so far along that we're going to have large numbers of players. We now actually need to think really carefully about infrastructure. That's very very cool.
But so that's also a lot of fun to work on, and those are just preparations, making sure everything's ready, and that when we do release, that it's fun for everyone, right? I hope that all the servers will be packed, fully packed with people, and that we don't drop any connections at all. I mean, probably stuff will go wrong.
Inevitably.
I mean, we're getting there. I think that's the conclusion.
Inevitably, the second you hit open beta, everything will break simultaneously.
Probably.
The law of early development. Or I guess just programming in general.
True.
But yes, anyway, to everyone watching, thank you so much for sticking around, for listening to all this. Been brilliant fun to make. And yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed meeting. I say meeting. I don't know to what extent it feels like meeting for you, but for me to meet Mick, to get to hear from this person I've referenced quite a lot on the channel. Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And developer channels. This is all been to do with DLU. Other things do exist. I guess YouTube's been on here as well. Developer channels in the description. As always, show them your support. Because as Mick said, and not just YouTube, Twitter, everywhere, that's the brilliant motivating factor. And thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you around.